Hello and welcome back to Conversations with Claire. Today my guest is Amanda Odgers.
Hello.
She is the founder of Made for More Retreats, which I literally know nothing about. So we're going to come back to that later. But you're also, you're a business, mindset, nutrition, and fitness coach as well. And then the reason that prompted all of this is because you're the girlfriend of, with your own stuff, you're the girlfriend of Matt Johnson, who I had on 2-3 weeks ago, who ran 841 miles in less than 18 days across the state of Texas.
Crazy.
And you decided to go on that journey with him.
I did.
In a van with a bunch of bros.
Yep.
Broing out for 18 days. And then you ran, how much did you run in total of that?
I ran over 200 miles, which was crazy. I did not expect to do that whatsoever.
Okay, so I had down that you ran over 100 because you made a post about when you had crossed that threshold.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you ran too.
Well, I didn't even realize too. I never even did an end post. I was looking back on my post the other day. I was like, oh wait, I never even did like a congratulations end post.
What kind of creator are you?
What was that?
I said, what kind of creator are you?
No, ridiculous. Horrible, the worst.
Okay, so yeah, I just want to hear about it. I just want to hear about it and record it. So
absolutely, let's do it.
I guess if we want to go back to the beginning of that all, because you were you a part of Matt's life when he came up with the idea, or was he already working on this when you came into the picture?
So I believe it was September of the year we met that he decided to do this. I came into the picture towards the end of November.
Okay.
So we were friends and stuff like that beforehand. I moved at the end of September. I think we started going on our first date was in December, but we were meeting up with friends of doing a couple events. You know how it is in Austin.
Mm-hmm. Hashtag community.
Well, yeah, community. Literally just everyone knows everyone and everyone shows up everywhere at the same time. Yeah. So that's literally what I was doing, just to make friends and whatnot. But I think he decided in September. So I don't know if he was 100% on it.
Okay.
Even when we first started dating, we kind of were discussing it. It wasn't finalized.
Okay.
But I think when January, maybe it was mid-February came around, it was okay, we're definitely doing this. Mark your calendars. Nothing's happening in October besides this. And I was like, okay. And I remember I was deciding on when to have my retreat. And it normally was in October. And I pushed it to September that year. So it was definitely in the picture, but I think we kind of finalized that in January.
You did have a retreat right after the run though, didn't you?
And right before.
Okay, so one right before and one right after.
Crazy.
He talked about the one right after where he was #dead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he actually came up to me. I actually felt really bad. He came up to me during the retreat and was like, hey, I know I'm supposed to be a leader here, but I just don't feel like I have anything to give right now. And I was like, absolutely, just be here. Mm-hmm. That's all I need from you right now, just to be present. Mm-hmm. And the poor guy was exhausted. Yeah.
I can't begin. I've never tried to do anything like that. And and then it's also just interesting because here we are talking about, because obviously the feat of that's an incredible feat. Yeah. So is going 200 miles on foot plus being a part of the whole thing and then going and doing your own retreat, and you did one before and after. Yeah. So as much as we're talking about this amazing accomplishment, which it very much so is, and there's that whole episode where we unpack that you can go back to. If you haven't already, you got to. But for you, that's also a huge undertaking. Yeah. And in the support of it, which we talked about right before starting recording, that was what prompted me being I have to talk to her, because I can't, your mindset, supporting someone, striving for so much, and maybe the fear that's associated with that. And there's a lot there. Okay. So did you know the whole time that you were going to go on with him?
Yeah, I definitely, I think there's something here too where I stepped into this role of being a supportive girlfriend almost immediately in the ultra space. And I had never experienced a real ultra. I had a friend that ran a 50 miler, and that was my first kind of experience of anything like this. Mm-hmm. I remember 2 years ago or 3 years ago I had a friend that thru hiked, and I thought that was crazy. He did the Appalachian Trail, and we would go on these long hikes and things like that. And that was my first kind of introduction to people actually go into the woods and they just do this thing. But then running got involved, and I learned about the ultra space. Mm-hmm. And so I think when we started dating, I immediately stepped into, I have to play this supportive girlfriend role. Not even have to, want to. Yeah. Because I thought it was just so interesting. It was so cool to experience. And our first one was Rocky Raccoon back in February. And I knew how much he wanted it after being injured. And I think that was also something that was really cool for me to witness as well, because it was my first time seeing someone go for this big goal and knowing the backside of how badly they wanted that finish line. Mm-hmm. And so I remember with Rocky Raccoon, it was crazy. I ended up doing a whole lap with him, which was like, if I'm not incorrect, I think it was 11 or 12 miles straight. And I remember being like, I finished a marathon recently, but my pace is nowhere near what yours should be. Why do you want me to be a pacer? Like, I'm going to ruin this. I'm going to mess it up. But then I got to see how much I was capable of in that moment, as well as how cool this experience is of crewing. And so looking back on that was my first experience of seeing someone go for something. And unfortunately it didn't work out then, but I remember it was mile 80 and he was looking to quit because of, having rolled the ankle, and Drew being in the space with him so much longer. Drew Darby, shout out.
Yeah.
Shout out Drew Darby.
Yeah. He's like running the thing.
Literally always running everything. And photography and everything else, videography. That man is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I remember being in that space and seeing Matt and Drew discussing this and me being like, no, you're not quitting. You have one more lap. You have to go one more lap. But Drew obviously having the experience knew what the call there was to make with the broken ankle. But that was my first time being like around someone that wanted a finish line so badly that didn't get it. And so I knew from that point on, I was like, I want to be that support for you in any future endeavor and help you get across that finish line any way I can. So that was my first experience of it. And then we did a bunch more after that. And then it kind of all led up to the finale, which was the run across Texas. So I knew I had to be there.
Oh my gosh. Okay. And then you mentioned the paces, because that's something that like, I don't think I had a good understanding of. I mean, I don't think I had a good understanding of Matt's performance capacity during these events too, and how like freakishly good it is. Like, not only can he run a long duration of time, but the paces that he can sustain for those is really abnormal.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so you mentioned like, I can't pace you because I'm going to slow you down. Mm-hmm. What were those paces that you ran for your 11 miles?
Yeah. So I would always kind of find myself anywhere between, I'd say the fastest being a 9:30, slowest could be up to like a 13-minute probably, depending on what time of the day I ran with him. Okay. Some of those miles ended up being walking miles just because they was towards the end of the day. I found I kind of took this almost role of morning shift for him. So running him out water, food and such for the first kind of couple of miles. Then I would drive the van for the second shift because we did 3 shifts. And then the third shift, I was bouncing in and out of the van running with him. And typically almost, I think it was like probably at least 14 of the 18-ish days that we were out there, I probably finished the last like 4 to 5 with him. So they were his more slower miles for sure. Yeah. But there were some days that the last day I ran a 26.2. I just ran a marathon that last day for whatever reason. And there were some days like that where I ran upwards of 15, 16 miles just because with running out stuff to him and also supporting him as a pacer myself. Yep. You just put on those miles and you didn't realize that some of them are walking, So
yeah. Okay, wait. So the one that, and I'm going to come right back, but the one that I was originally, so my question was for the one that you did in February. Yeah. That one before the run across Texas.
Got it.
Yeah. I love this because I'm like, oh my gosh, no. Okay. So, because I've got questions for that too. But for the one in February, when you paced him for, you said 11 miles ish on that race. Yep. And what were the paces that you were running for that? Do you remember?
So that was a little bit faster. Yeah. So 50 miles was when I picked him up. So I picked him up at the 50 mile. I was like, actually, you know what? I know this sounds crazy. Actually, no, because he didn't do the last 20. Okay. Yeah. I was only supposed to pace him for 11 miles. That's what we did. So it was probably around like that 10-minute pace, I would say, max. There wasn't really much slow there. I would say like there were definitely parts which was cool for me, where I kind of was leading, where I was running out in front of him and just like follow my footsteps because it was nighttime and it was hard to kind of see. And we kind of made it fun, look at the stars, look at this, stepping through a bunch of mud, trudging through water. It was messy out there, but we made it fun. And I remember, you know, there were certain spots where he would be like, which I thought was really cool because I was very like new to this, very novice, where he was like, oh, I wouldn't have gone through that part if you didn't, you know, push a little bit there. So he was kind of following my feet there. And, you know, it was that first feeling of, okay, maybe I do have a purpose in this space, which is kind of nice.
Yeah. Did you have love for running before all of this?
Yeah. So I started training for my very first half marathon my last year of college.
Okay.
I did a couple halves, and then I wanted to do my first marathon. That was my goal for 2022. And I did that in June in San Diego. And before I even did that one, I signed up for the New York Marathon. So I had 2 marathons that year. Yeah. Loved it. But honestly, I think training for the marathon itself, it burnt me out with running for a little bit because it was so structured, and I'm very spontaneous. I like to do HIIT workouts. I like to do yoga. I like to do Pilates. I like to do full body stuff. Like, I wasn't loving the fact that I had this rigid schedule of just consistency of this one goal for a whole year. High Rocks, another one. I did a spontaneous High Rocks 2 weeks after my New York Marathon because I needed to switch things up.
Yep.
So I actually took some time off from running. So between probably then till Rocky Raccoon, I wasn't running much. So that was about 3 months. And it was during the time where I was starting dating Matt too. Okay. So I think honestly, the only time I was running was if Matt was like, hey, want to go run 5 miles? Yeah. Sure. Sounds good. If not, I was doing yoga. I was doing all my kind of things, switching things up in the gym. So yeah, I had a passion, but I think it got a little stale there for a little bit.
That makes perfect sense to me. Being like, I have a very extensive CrossFit background, right? Yeah. And like we don't do anything for more than like 90 seconds, you know? Like, and so just kidding. We do all sorts of different domains. Yeah. That's true, but we also get a lot of diversity. But so I'm just curious because even just like using my own experience, and I have a really hard time. Well, I've never done it, right? So I've never run a long distance. Right. So like I'm trying to think, I think the longest distance I've done solo is maybe like 9. Shoot, I don't want to quote that incorrectly. I think it's maybe 9 miles.
Oh, gosh, amazing. Yeah. Look,
well,
you go.
Anyway, but so I haven't done long distance. Right. And the idea that you did a marathon that final day and so on, in your brain, what happens when you're running for greater than an hour in any given setting? Like, because it seems like in asking Matt, it's just kind of like he does a lot of thinking, but he also just kind of like checks out. Yeah. What happens for you?
For me, that's so funny you asked that because I heard this. I mean, obviously being, you know, in the mindset space too, I heard this fact, like, I don't even know when it was, like probably 2 years ago, where a male's mind can just like turn off for like minutes at a time, and you just have they're literally, if you say penny for your thoughts, they're like, I don't have thoughts. I didn't have one. But the female brain doesn't. And so for me, I'm so shocked by that whenever he says that, because when I get out there, the whole time I'm battling, am I gonna die? Oh my goodness, I'm out of breath. Oh, this is tough. And then I'm going into almost like a weird, since I have this yoga breathwork background, almost like a weird meditative state where I can have visions of just my life and what's going on. But my brain is never off. That doesn't happen. Okay. Like I don't know where that comes from. It's either I'm going to die. What's going on? This is horrible. Get me out of this. Why are you doing this to me, Amanda? It's a mix of what's happening in my life, futuristic stuff. And then there's also this like hardo Amanda that comes up like, you're a badass. You can do this. Totally. Put on some EDM music and just fly. Yeah. So it's just like a mix of the three, I think. Yeah. But I don't know how his brain just shuts off. Like he had that one reel which cracked me up. It was my last 2 brain cells, and it was like hamburger, cheeseburger, hamburger, cheeseburger. Did you see that one?
He posts a lot of content. Off the top of my head, I don't think I saw that one, but that's funny.
It kills me because that's literally his brain. It can shut off like that, which is crazy to me.
I think I just appreciate you even breaking it down like that because that just makes a ton of sense to me. As far as my personal experiences and like the High Rocks that you mentioned, I think I've run like 8 of them maybe. Yeah, amazing. And all but maybe 1 were individual. So when you're by yourself, there's a lot of in your own brain, you know. Right. And that journey that you just referenced, I I don't know how much thought you put into that, but that was so relatable of like bouncing back and forth between like, I'm probably going to die over this.
Yes.
And also then I'm a savage and I can do this. And then also, I mean, like, it's just, I think it's nice to hear, you know, for some, like for anyone else who's wanting to strive, or even for me, if I want to go chase down a goal that I'm unfamiliar with, like remembering that that's just part of it, because someone can see someone like you doing those things and very easily just be like, there's something uniquely different about her. And then you're like, I'm thinking all the things too.
Oh no, absolutely. And I think, I forget who said this, probably, I mean, Matt said it a bunch, but you go through waves, and the ability to ride that wave of ups and downs, I think that's super, you know, common to everyone, but it's just the ability to keep riding that wave and be okay with the continuation of that, knowing that the ups and downs are going to come. And I think that's where sometimes for me, it even could take scaling back to just walking for 30 seconds or walking for a minute, just to show my body and show myself we're safe here. Yeah. It's okay. What we're doing is okay. And it's powerful too. And then getting back into it. Sometimes for me, that's what I need. It's just a little bit of a slowdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of safe, did you feel like this decision to do this was safe?
No, absolutely not. Are you kidding me?
Okay.
Horrifying.
But you supported it.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I think it just goes back to, honestly, what I said at the beginning about his experience at Rocky Raccoon. I knew how bad he wanted it.
Yeah.
And I think when you love someone, as much as it might pain you, and you do have to be the voice of reason, I think when someone has a goal and they want something and you can tell it's genuine, you can tell there's a deep why, you got to support them in it. Because at the end of the day, they're probably going to do it regardless. And they probably could do it safer and get further if you do. And so being a coach myself, I found my clients and friends get further when I'm there for them and I'm supporting them, rather than if I said, no, don't do that, that's crazy. And they're like, well, I'm still going to do it. So now I just think you think it's crazy. And now I have this like lack of motivation behind it because I have this lack of a support system. I just think we all go further together. And so, yeah, if I care about you and I love you and you're going to do something crazy, I'm probably going to be upset about it. Yeah. But I'm going to support you and I'm going to be there for you. And again, make sure you get through it, hopefully safer, because I'm there.
Yeah. So. That is a beautiful disposition. That makes me think, do you know who Lane Palm is?
I don't.
Lane and Taylor, he's an Olympic weightlifter. He won at the national level in his weight class. I guess that was 2023. He had a baby last year. Yeah. Anyway, 8 months ago, Bobby. Anyway, so he's a really high level one, but he's also a chiropractor. Yeah. And so he works with a lot of athletes locally in different sports. And when I'm talking to him about this sort of thing, like he's working with his clients in that setting, and it's always just like, okay, you know, he says even for his, he's like, at this point, me doing this Olympic weightlifting thing at this level, like this is no longer for health, right? Like this is a choice because I want to pursue a goal. And, you know, so then so with those other athletes that he works with, and I'm kind of obviously paraphrasing it, but I love it that he's just like, my role is to support you to get where you're trying to go in the best possible manner. And so kind of a different way to put the same thing. I love that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Cause I'm going to borrow it with Jimmy as I'm like over here, like
take it. Run with it.
Cause I'm like, I support you and I'm terrified and I support you.
It's tough because I mean, especially what Jimmy does too. I think about that and the safety around it too. It's so tough because men have, I mean, we do too as women, right? But men have like this innate ability to go out and conquer. They want to do that. It's actually built into their genes. And so they're going to go for these crazy, insane things. And it's like, do you want a woman next to you that supports you and is there for you through that? Yeah. So it's kind of like, you know, I don't even have a choice sometimes. Yeah.
Okay. So I do want to go in now, and you did kind of reference it, but I want to go in now to like literally what your day-to-day looked like. So you guys, you support him on the way there. He gets the logistics taken care of. You're a team, and we kind of unpacked what that looked like. But on his episode, that is. So what does a day in the life from your perspective look like? Not only just running him out food, and obviously that's like very relevant, but like your experiences.
Oh boy. So I think everyone has a unique role. That's the best thing I would say about it. We all had our roles. Drew Darby was the best friend and the photographer and videographer and just standing crew chief here and there. It was not his job to be that, but he's been to so many of Matt's races. He kind of took that role on sometimes. Rob, obviously crew chief, make sure everything goes smoothly. Marcus was making the food. You know, Brett and Caleb came in kind of as support roles to help pace and also help with the driving in the van. And then there was my role. And I feel like I didn't have an off switch in the role. Like everyone else had an off switch where they kind of went to bed. And my role continued through the night. Which sounds crazy. So, but I had clients as well. So I had to take some shifts off if there were 3 shifts in a day just to keep up with my, personal training clients and things like that too. So, I really did feel like I didn't turn off an off switch off. So, but my day kind of looked like in the morning, making sure Matt has everything he needs, helping him with like his clothes, things like that, like put out on the bed, making sure he takes all his supplements, making sure obviously he brushes his teeth and does like the normal things.
Yeah.
And then once he kind of transitioned out, stretching him, things like that in the morning. And then once he got out of either the RV room we stayed in or out of the hotel, then it kind of got put onto Rob, Drew, Brett, Caleb, things like that for like making sure he actually ate his oatmeal and then he got in the van and things like that. But then the normal day went through where we all kind of transferred food out to him, water out to him, took turns running, turns driving the van. But then there was this afternoon night shift. And I only ever had that. So it was like, make sure Matt is eating his dinner while he has all of his supplements and everything he needs to take for nighttime, giving him a massage, making sure that his feet are, fine. If, we had a PT come out, that was great too. And then middle of the night shift. So like he would wake up in the middle of the night sweating through the sheets. And so sometimes it would be like getting up, getting some cold towels for him. Some nights it was making sure he ate some calories. So like there was like a 24-hour thing. But then on top of that, just being the support system that a girlfriend / like your best friend, your closest person you see every day should be for you. So there were a lot of low points. Like emotionally, I think a lot of the guy's role was to keep him on track and to keep him focused because just relating it to something like the Army, where it's kind of like there's a strict schedule. You have to stick to it in order to get the job done that you're set out to do, the mission completed. That's kind of what this was like. Yeah. And so I had this, I think, tough role of fitting that mold to make sure things got done where they need to, but also, I guess the word is like supporting the humanness in Matt too. Because he had some low points where he just wanted to talk and he just wanted to be upset and work through those things, whether it was at nighttime, walking together, things like that. And I was always, I think, that person that took that on because I'm sure he felt like he could do that with everyone else, but I was, the person that was with him 24/7 before and after this race too. So I was kind of that confidant. And then there was a part which was actually funny at the beginning where he thought he could kind of pull fast ones on Rob by asking me questions that Rob wasn't giving him answers to. So like, I forget, there was like something happening. I don't know, but Rob's biggest thing was like, don't tell Matt everything. Yeah. And if Matt tries to like not eat cookies or not eat donuts, whatever you give him, he has to eat it. Right. But with me, he wouldn't eat it or he wouldn't drink it because he knew he could like pull a fast one on me. So I'd have to go back to the van, be like, well, he wouldn't eat it. And Rob would be like, oh, okay, go back out there, tell me. And I feel like I was like kind of stuck in the between of like, he won't do it because he knows he can get away with it with me. Yes. But eventually he kind of knew he had to, because I started just being like, you're going to cause a rift between me and the boys in there if you don't just eat the cookie or eat the donut. Yeah. So he eventually would eat
gosh. Yeah. And he did. He talked about that on our episode of like how it was with you. He would be more
lenient,
willing to voice his opinion in those settings.
Oh yeah.
And like, I don't want to.
That's another one.
So when he's waking up in the middle of the night, breaking a sweat, and you're getting towels, like moments like that.
Yeah.
Based on the fact that you have done multiple ultras with him at this point, so you are familiar with some unique physical reactions to the stress that you're putting on your body and so on.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, maybe how do you regulate yourself through those moments?
Yeah, I think it's tough, but it's taking. I've always been someone that is very busy. I always pack my schedule with a lot of things. I have since I was young. And I think it's knowing that there are moments that I need to either meditate, journal, spend some time out in nature, do some praise and worship, whatever it is. I need some time for me as well. And so I really think throughout the trip, I would make that time, whether it was at sunset, like sitting outside, getting fresh air, whether it was taking a break to actually take a little bit of a nap before my clients, or if it was, nighttime, not necessarily going to bed right away. There were a couple nights that I just didn't go to bed right away because I was like, I just need some time for me. And honestly, when I was driving the van, I actually loved it because I would just play my music. There was this time towards the end of the van where van driving, like it must have been day like 14 or something. The boys realized there was a cover, like in those like limousines, they can put up like a little like space between the driver and the back.
Yeah.
There was something like that in there. So they put this cover down and they started watching a movie in the back and I'm up front just like listening to like music, like my music, and just having, it felt like I was just alone in the world. And the only thing is obviously Matt's running in front of me, but it's just me alone in the world living my best life.
Yeah.
And then we realized the AC wasn't traveling all the way back. And so the boys were getting like hot boxed by this whole situation. But that day was very nice. So the long story short, just
you got a very short reprieve from all the what was it like living in such small quarters with all the guys? Well, I guess I'm curious, like, because that's a lot of dude action for you for an extended period of time. So I guess part of it was taking moments for yourself. What about your nutrition during it? Like, I'm always that's a fascinating topic to me in general. And so even though there's this like ton of focus, rightfully so, that's going on because oh my gosh, he's running all of those miles every single day and so on. But there still needed to be like a lot going on for you to not be in a bad spot.
Absolutely. I think nighttime, I always prepared really well for the mornings.
Cool.
So I always did like overnight oats. I love overnight oats. I'm good with it. It's easy. I most nights remembered to do that for myself so that I would have something to fuel me in the morning. Plus we had this ongoing like fun. It was kind of like a scavenger hunt, like find the next gas station. So like the crew, we all had this like eye on the gas station in the morning. Like, where's the gas station? What are we going to get today? Are we going to get Hot Pockets? Are we going to get scrambled eggs? Or what's it going to look like?
Yeah.
For me though, I'm gluten-free. So I had to kind of like really be on top of my nutrition, even extensively a little bit more so, because a lot of the stuff that we would get, like sandwiches or quesadillas, it wouldn't work for me.
Yeah.
And so there were definitely days where lunchtime was tough for me. I whenever I saw a gas station, I would grab a bunch of, things that I knew I could eat, like granola bars, protein bars, things like that, so that I knew I was good to go, because I always was nervous about my afternoon run with Matt. Because even though he was going to be tired and things like that, I wasn't probably fueling myself properly at lunchtime to do excessive amount of miles. I was always good in the morning because I had those oats, energy drink, protein bar, whatever it looked like, some fruit. I was always good. So I sometimes got 10 or so miles out in the morning, and the afternoon was just 3 to 5. So that was fine. But the nighttime, always fueling up again. So for the first 4 to 5 days, it was tough because I'm sure Matt mentioned we were out in the middle of the desert. Nowhere. No gas stations, no clean water. Whatever we had brought in the van was what needed to get us to the next like city. And for 5 days, we didn't have access to a city, like anything close to that. So that was tough, I think, the first couple of days. to make sure I was taking care of my nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
But as time went on, it almost felt like we're just doing this now. This is just life now. There isn't an end in sight. So you learn to adapt. And I think that's where mornings and nights became like really crucial for me to just what's around me. I went out one night, I went and I got this nice little Italian dinner, like got ordered to go, went up, picked it up, ate it myself.
Yeah.
It was like living my best life.
Yeah.
So Taco Bell was, you know, a nice stop at nighttime sometimes. So
I can't even imagine just trying to figure out how to get it in. And that's such an interesting, like talking about, because the afternoon time is when most of us just generally kind of lull out anyway, like just that's how that works, you know? And so then you having this looming knowing I'm going to need to perform at some level soon. I'm here as a supporter. And so my role is to show up and show up well and to not only help him fuel and so on, but to literally ask my body to perform for me as well. Like that is a lot that could easily get overlooked. And the psychological side of that, of like having to process, like, have I eaten enough? Do I need to eat more? There goes that 3 different personalities in my brain getting after it with each other, you know?
Absolutely.
So cool. So if you like, now that you've had maybe 7 weeks or so now, close to 2 months since it's been completed, to reflect, process a bit, what are like takeaways from the experience, unforgettable moments, just kind of anything that you're like, this is something I won't forget about this experience?
Yeah, I think there is like a lot of good and also bad, as tough as that is. As you know, when you're in such a tough state like Matt was, you're not yourself. And I think that was really tough for me, because he wasn't 100% him during all of it. And as I'm sure he mentioned, and even afterwards, I mean, there's probably a month where his just dopamine level was very low, no drive to really, you know, do anything. But he was still doing it. And it was just exhausting him. You know, he just wasn't him. And I think that was a tough realization for me of, you know, in the future, if we do endeavors like this again, this is going to probably be something that happens. So how do we better communicate? How do I better be like support you in a space that's not you? Kind of like, you know, you're not you when you don't eat a Snickers. Like, how do I get you back to you in a better way on a future endeavor? That's one thing that I think bad could be turned really good. Now knowing kind of what his body does and how it fluctuates with that. But a lot of like beautiful moments too. Like I remember this time where Matt and I were just in the middle of nowhere, no van in sight. We hadn't seen, you know, a car in days. I think this was like the first 3 or 4 days. And we looked back at this mountain and we were just like, this is something we're going to tell our kids about one day. This is something that we get to say, you know, mom and dad ran across Texas together. You know, these are moments that not everyone gets experienced. Someone's sitting at a desk right now, typing up an email while we are literally running across a state in the middle of nowhere.
Not just any state, but Texas. It's not the same.
The biggest state.
Yeah, literally the largest one that there is. Anyway, go ahead. Yeah. Running across a state that's the size of many countries.
That was ridiculous. Like you could also run across the whole line of California and do the same thing. But
crazy.
Anyway, crazy. It's huge. I didn't realize, you know, I've driven across Texas many times. It's different when you're running or walking across it.
Yeah.
It's very big and very long, but yeah, there was a lot of good like that, a lot of grateful moments of this is crazy, this is insane, but how beautiful at the same time. And I think there was a lot of good moments too. Brett Ender, who came on the trip, we both have a really deep faith. And I think God placed him in the spot he was at in the moment I needed the support as just a female, you know, being around these men all the time. I love everyone. Yeah. But they had this thing, and it's funny now. This is another funny moment to reflect on. They had these accents. They would just start talking in accents, and then they would just start talking about the stupidest things. Like, I swear men only talk about poop, food, and like, that was it. Like, it was really poop and food. I'm not kidding.
Bowel movements and eating.
Like, that's all anyone talked about. And it got to the point where I was like, there's no intellect at all here. And I'm with some smart people like Drew Darby and I, we would have Taylor Swift hour. Like we had a great time. We would throw some Taylor Swift on, singing, great times. But when Brett came, we would do a little bit of Bible time in the morning, a little bit of praise and worship. And it was nice having kind of some normalcy of what Matt and I typically do when we're at home brought into the trip. So I think I developed a lot of deeper friendships with these boys as well, which I really loved. And also a deeper relationship with God too. And seeing Matt have his own kind of God wink moments out there, because this is still his kind of first real year from what he tells of exploring and having his faith and having an open heart in his faith.
Totally.
Seeing him have these like God moments was really cool, of just running into the sunrise and listening to praise and worship, and Ethan calling out, his run across Texas and praying for him at Red Rocks was, he had tears in his eyes. And those were special moments for me to see from him.
That's so funny. You say, well, the Ethan thing is funny because the Red Rocks people who serve the team whatever event. Anyway, it's really funny, and I forgot I went 2 years. I think I already told you this, but I went 2 years ago to it, and I forgot that they do these awards, and it's just like a literal comedy show. I completely forgot that, and I went this year again, and I was like, oh, I forgot that I came here to be entertained, but I wound up laughing for such an extended period of time. Like, it was so funny, and the best part was like Ethan. I probably have had the least communication with Ethan of all of the three pastors, and anyway. I just walked away being like, he's a comedian. Like, I've been going here for 2.5 years, and I didn't know that, so it was so funny. Yes. Him, the shout out. And then of course having him on their podcast afterwards, that's really cool because that's meaningful to Matt,
It's huge to be seen, known, and loved for who you truly are. I mean, the way God sees us, that I think is something that has really changed Matt's heart this year really bigly. Having Ethan, your pastor, give you the time of day to also be texting you too, on top of praying for you, on top of having you on the podcast after. I am so grateful for Ethan's friendship with Matt. It's so special.
Yeah. Did you find, kind of a side note, did you find Red Rocks right after you moved here? How quickly, did you already know about it?
Yeah, it's actually one of the reasons I moved here, which is crazy. Yeah, so about 3 years ago, I want to say it was, I went with my friend Corey. Corey Camp. Camp. Shout out Corey. I went with him, and I remember being like, this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be living in Austin. And that was one of those things where I went home, I started watching the virtual services. It was kind of my church, home away from home type of thing. Because I didn't really have a church back home that really ever felt the way Red Rocks has always felt for me. And I just feel the Lord so much in that space. And so I think that was one of the biggest drivers for me moving here, to be in the space actually physically. And I kind of knew everything else was going to fall into place. So,
girl, that's so cool. I knew nothing about it prior to moving here. And within, I would say, a month of living in Austin, I was invited. And so I very quickly stayed, and only went to welcome party because some other people I was with were going, and then I was the only one that even joined a team. I think there was one other of the whole group that did for a brief period of time, and then I've just been ever since, so it's been such a cool thing. It wasn't really what I was seeking, but next thing we're there. And the cool other thing, and you had mentioned at the beginning about you're going to a community event, and I think that for some reason for me right now, part of that is just because in my own personal life there's some stuff going on that's more turbulent than I'm used to.
Right.
And on a health perspective, family health, there's just some stuff going on that's got me kind of worked up personally.
I hear that.
Yeah. Well, it's seasons of life. And but with all of that, it's been the coolest thing to be I feel more supported than ever with all of this. I certainly don't feel alone, and I'm amazed by the amount of peace that I feel through all of it.
Wow.
And then it's why is that happening? And then I think it's very easy. So maybe that's why it's so fresh on my mind about the fact that we do live in a place where that community thing is in the water. And sometimes I can joke and play fun about it because it's everywhere, and it's okay, we get it, community,
No, everywhere.
But also it is so unique, and it's what the world is craving. And so the fact that it's in our backyard all the time, and then even that, having access to a church that's just a bunch of humans, actually being human is like so easy to just exist in that ecosystem and think that it's completely normal, and then realize that like it's so not normal and you are so blessed,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming from Philadelphia, no shade to Philly, was there my whole life, and New Jersey's where I would spend my summers. It's different here. It's just so different. Fitness is such a priority. Community is such a priority. Faith is such a priority. It really came from a space where it was sports and drinking. That was really what you did on the weekend. There's nothing much to it. It's those two, and that's it. Coming here was just like, whoa, this is a whole different world. And I'm very grateful that I made the switch and made the move. Not because I don't miss home. I love home. I love visiting home. But this is different. And this is where I think you choose your life. And when I moved here, I really feel like I chose my life for myself. And I chose to not just work towards the weekends, but live every single day. In every single moment.
Okay, I do want to actually now pivot to your life, aside from the journey with the running. But you guys already do have stuff on the calendar for next year that is ultra oriented. Are you excited about that?
Yeah, I mean...
Oh, I needed to ask.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry.
Go for it.
About that. We talked about the fact that, of course, after the run across Texas, that Matt had to experience the come down from that. And so on the physiological level, being completely depleted of any positive hormone that exists, and having to navigate that journey, but as well as the psychological of all of these affirmations coming every single day to like, now it's quiet again. And what am I going to do next? And so on. What about for you coming off of that huge endeavor, which was probably I can't even imagine, which was so much and then was over. What was that like for you?
Yeah, honestly, Matt, he's going to laugh when he hears this. He got like mad at me on the last day because I said something like this. Oh, this is so sad. It's ending. And he goes, screw you. Like, he's like, I've been wanting this to be over for days.
Yeah.
Because obviously he's putting his body through torture, going through this. But for me, I was starting to have a lot of fun. I was really enjoying being out there. And I think for me, I've always wanted to live on the road with someone I love, pack up the dogs and get on the road, go to all the national parks. And I feel like I got a brief little bit of that. Granted, we had like 5 other men involved. Yep. There was no cleanliness
More
whatsoever.
People that you loved.
Yes.
In a very unique way.
But I would do it again.
Unique
I love
smells.
That. Yes. Very. Oh my gosh.
I can't even imagine.
Unique smells, unique conversations. I mean, oh gosh. But I would do it again. And I think that's where I was getting used to it. I kind of felt like this was our life. And going back home, it was kind of like this mundane a little bit, kind of just like back to normalcy. We had this run across Texas and my 2 retreats on the calendar the entire year. The entire year was leading up to this moment. And so when they ended, it kind of was like, well, what now? What do we do now? And I think what I struggled with the most was Matt's physiological change in his body, because I was kind of looking towards, okay, it's over. It is what it is. I'm exhausted. I'm going to take a couple days and then I'm going to, get back to it. I'm going to find, the next thing, the next retreat, the next focus of, this upcoming year. But Matt was struggling so much physically that, there were times, I'm sure he shared, but times where I had typed in my search bar, how do you deal with someone who's going through a tough depression, a tough time? And I didn't know what to do. So it kind of left me feeling this, for the first time in my life, like I don't have answers and I don't have a solution here. And I don't know how to be the best help I can possibly be. Because all my coaching, all of that stuff that, I do with my clients on a daily basis, that gets thrown out the window when the person you love knows you're a coach and they don't want to hear any of the stuff.
Sufficiently tired of being coached by me.
Yes.
And he of course loves being here, but he definitely is just like, I'm not your client. I'm like, shit.
Yeah. So that was tough because in my practices, this is like how you get out of this. This is how we move on and we get to, but Matt was in a space where it was his hormones couldn't move on. They couldn't get better right now.
Yeah.
And again, understandably so. So I think that was the toughest part for me afterwards. And also my body couldn't go into full rest. I had a retreat coming up in 2 weeks. So I had to kind of kick it back into start. So I kind of was dealing with the pain of feeling like I don't know how to support and be there for the person I love. And also I can't go down myself right now because I have 15 other people that are needing, wanting, looking for a transforming experience in the next couple of weeks that I have to be there for too.
Yep.
So yeah, that was tough. It was a weird time.
Do you feel like there's anything you picked up from the seeking that you did do? Mm-hmm. And I just love that. You know, I don't have the answers. Yeah. I don't have the solution here. Being in recovery, alcoholism recovery myself, just been thoroughly taught that like so often I don't have the answers. So, you know, it's like, but I still have to come back to it. Like, you don't know what's best for everyone else. You don't, okay. All right, cool. That takes some of the pressure off.
Right.
What were some takeaways from that of how to support him best?
Yeah, it was a tough balancing act, I would say, of sitting with him in it and almost saying nothing and almost just listening and also not getting stuck in it. Like meeting him where he was at, but also calling myself to my highest light, who, I'm a bubbly personality. I just am.
No. What?
And if I really? No way.
We got that.
And I'm also a yapper. I'm a professional yapper. Love that.
We love that about you.
But I couldn't yap and I couldn't be so bubbly all the time. And that sounds horrible to say, but when someone you love is going through something, you want to best be there for them. And I was too much stimulation for this man that just had giant semis going by his left ear and was shunning away from them. He had like some serious, which I'm sure you talked about, some serious like trauma afterwards, like physical like trauma where, he was so overstimulated. When we had a welcome back party for him, he had to go sit outside. All of his friends were inside talking, 25 people, and he's sitting outside eating his burger, talking to his brother. And I'm like, this is a party for you right now, but his body couldn't handle it. And so that's the type of stuff I was dealing with. So I think the biggest takeaway for me was just meet him where he's at, be with him, tone it down a notch, but then also like use that extra energy with your clients, with your friends, in your workout classes that you're going to still be you. And I would try to let it flow as much as I could with him too. But I think again, like it was almost, what's the word? Not too much. Too much is the wrong word because it was never too much. It was just like someone who's claustrophobic feeling like a little too crowded. That was the feeling of Matt with everything. Yeah. And it wasn't just me, it was everything. And so it's just like understanding that and helping walk through that. So yeah, I think walking with them, but also not losing who you are in that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you've gotten a beautiful opportunity in your which I mean, just from what I hear from this, obviously you've had other opportunities in life, but you've got to have what sounds like to me, your own ability to like self-regulate big time because there's all this chaos going around you. And whether it's these high highs or these low lows, with the person that you love the most, that is your partner. And you both signed up for this and you're both grateful you did it and so on. And yet, you still got to regulate yourself to be able to show up through all of that.
Yeah. It's so funny you say that because one of the first things I learned about Matt, it had to be like the second date or third date. I walked in, I met him at his house and I walk in, the washing machine's going, the microwave's going, the TV's going, the Roomba's going, the music's going. And I was like, and I went to the washing machine, I shut the door, I shut off the mic, I shut everything off and I was like, oh, okay. And he was like, wait, why'd you do all that? And I was like, well, because it's chaos in here. It's chaos. And he's like, well, that's my brain. Yeah. He goes, I don't even notice. I didn't even notice everything that was going on in here. And so I learned pretty quickly that that's just like, there's a difference in our minds, and that's okay. And also I think I've taught him a lot of how to be more still and more at peace in silence and enjoy silence. Well, I've also learned how to function in chaos a lot better, because I think I was in a space when I entered the relationship of being so in my yogi meditative self that I was almost like avoiding chaos, where it was like, oh, chaos, nope, I'm out. Not for me. I'm at peace. I'm in my peaceful state with the Lord. I don't need, Jesus loves me. I don't need this chaos. Goodbye. Leave. Remove myself. Instead of working through some chaos. So I think I regulated and learned how to do that too.
That's fun.
I don't know if it's good or bad, but
I like it.
It's a good mix.
Yeah, it's like the in partnership, like they should, you should bring different things that, or it's exciting when you do. Maybe I shouldn't say should. Everybody gets to choose that journey, but I appreciate how dramatically different Jimmy's approach to life is than mine. It's very helpful to me.
You learn. You learn. I think it would be so boring if you were in, this personal opinion, but boring if you were in a relationship where you guys are exactly the same.
I don't know.
And I've been in a couple of those, and it's just like, okay, well, we both want to do the same thing all the time. There's no calling to do something different. Or to grow even. Having similar hobbies is like I thoroughly enjoy that. Like Jimmy and I, there's so many things that are in alignment. Absolutely.
And then also, we do have our own unique things. Okay. So I want to get into now so you moved here, and like, I'm just curious about your retreats because you do the coaching. So you do coaching online at this point, right? Yeah.
Online, in person in the summers in Avalon, New Jersey. That's like where I started my foundation like 6 years ago. Okay. So that's like I graduated college. I was to work in the corporate job, working my butt off, getting my certifications because I loved health and wellness. And then when I finally, it was like 3 years into it, I was doing clients mornings and nights and finally picking up steam where I could quit my full-time job and go all in on, entrepreneurship. So,
and how far in were you? 3 years?
About 3 years.
Okay. So
I could have done it in 2, but I kind of took the more conservative approach, I want to say, where I just saved up a lot of money because I knew, it costs money. There are seasons of life too where you don't have the money to spend if you don't have it saved up. And I knew going all in on myself, there would be seasons where clients come and go. There was a time where I was doing a lot of travel for myself, building, working on myself, working on kind of going to retreats, for example, too. So I did the more conservative approach.
Okay. But I love that though. Just think it's really easy as much as we all want to like step into things that feel more purpose driven. And I'm such a huge fan of that, obviously. And then also just addressing the reality of it because it's so cool to hear the bright, shiny stuff. And then to not forget that you needed to work a full-time job and grow this business for 3 years before you stepped into it full time. And so maybe that's, I just appreciate that detail. I think it's a very relevant detail because I know for me, I've been really open and with my community about this, but just I jumped in and I left my previous career like really fast. And then I hadn't yet established any solid foundation as this new role. And so the world wasn't acquainted with me in that role yet. And I had so much learning to do. And so anyway, my expectations and reality were so far out of alignment and I wound up getting myself into debt over the situation that I'm still working through currently, where like, yet again, we're here. I'm still so grateful to be doing it, but just, I think those are important details that like, success stories often have messy middles in one way or another. And like, don't forget that the messy middle is part of the journey. Okay. So
shout out Red Rocks, messy middle.
Yeah.
that sermon stuck with me and it's never left. It's literally always there.
There are some, I think my favorite one last year was actually from, is his name Sean?
Yeah. Sean.
No, not that lead guy. I'm sorry. The one that with Big Mad.
Yes.
Big, you know what I'm talking about? Big Mad.
Yes.
It was I think it was his first time coming. I don't remember. Now I feel terrible.
What's his name?
Yeah, he's great.
He's amazing.
That's for sure. He came
Braxton? Braxton? No. Jackson? No. Oh, I hate that. I don't know.
Man, you're so close.
I'm so close. I think maybe his last name's Braxton. James Braxton.
James sounds right. James. Man.
Bracken. I follow him on Instagram.
Me too. Anyway, he was a comedian too. I was like, wow, we brought in a comedian and called him a pastor. Hell yeah.
So funny. Oh, Matt loved that service.
That was real
all
good.
About that one.
Yeah.
So good.
Felt very relatable.
Yes, very relatable.
Okay. Yeah. So you knew all along that you wanted to do retreats.
Right.
Because you had started doing that at age 16. So I guess, just kind of, I don't know, walk me through the process of you start your coaching business in person exclusively, building it over a few years, and then what? And how did we eventually get to retreats?
Yeah. So, and I love that you shared the openness about the debt portion because and I'll get to this later on, I think this whole thing of entrepreneurship is a learning curve. It's an up and down flow of constantly learning, making mistakes and growing from them. And you can hire coaches, right? And they can a lot of times help you get to where you want to be a lot faster. That's why I do business coaching at this point too, because I want to help people skip some of the things I went through. But I've made many critical errors where I have debt that I'm working through too. And so if you're someone out there that's listening to this and you're dealing with that and that burden of that, by the way, that weight on your chest, you're not alone. There's a lot of people that are going through that. And just working through it one little step at a time, it's not going to happen overnight. That's just something I find so important to share because, again, social media and being a coach, I feel like a lot of the highlight reel is always just depicted, but there's a lot of bad darkness there too. And there's a lot of tough times you have to go through if you want to start your own business. So yeah, walking through just that journey, I saved up a lot of money before I quit my job, but I was doing long hours. We're talking 4 a.m. wake up to probably going to bed at 11 or 12 by the time I actually went to bed. Some nights I was getting 4 to 5 hours of sleep because I was doing content creation. I had an online platform. I was doing challenges, back in the day when challenges were the thing. Shout out 8-week, 12-week fitness challenge.
I still like a good challenge.
Me too. Yeah. And sometimes I still launch them. So look out. Maybe there's another new year, new you coming soon. I don't know, but I used to love those.
I think that we've determined the name for mine for January is the Breakthrough Blueprint.
Ooh, I love that. That's a good one.
We're building it out right now. Anyway,
that's a fun one.
Yeah.
Anyway. I love it. And the
so
names.
I'm still in the challenge era.
Well, honestly, I just real quick pause on the challenge thing. They're so good. And you can personalize anything to yourself. I think people look at challenges these days and they're like, oh, well, I could go in person and do all these. But if you're accountable to yourself, you don't need to be paying a personal trainer to teach you everything. You could just get a program that allows you to differentiate some things in the gym and your body, what a medium weight is versus a heavy weight. And if you don't, reach out. I feel like that's just it's the cheapest option and it's so quick and easy. Yeah. I love challenges.
I think it's just so individualized, yes, there are seasons where I know that one of my clients was telling me she joined of January of this past year. She's been with me now for 1 year. Right. And she's lost 30 pounds and she's just had an amazing journey. And she actually is running 5Ks on the weekends for fun.
Woohoo! Yeah. Love that.
But she was saying how with challenges, she even sent me, it's so cool. I'm actually probably going to be able to put them together and share them. And she sent me pictures of all of the challenges that she would join and hold up the piece of paper. Stop. And and so she would, but the years prior to this year where she was trying, she kept on joining another challenge and then just wasn't able to get the job done. And so we were talking about what's the difference for her in this season, and it was the accountability to a coach in this season for her. And that's where I think it's so individualized, because for some, you are in a season where you can just get a program and you have got your and I love that. And then there are some that just need more aid up front, and that's okay too. I remember I did one that was more hands off that, where it's I'm here 24/7, reach out to me, group chat, things like that. But then I did one where there was group calls every week. Yeah. And I just think the ability to get on a call with someone weekly is so good. And I prefer it so much more because you get to really see, one, you build a one-on-one relationship with everyone that signs up. But then two, you get to see these people transform with your own eyes and just get to see the impact. I have this one
client Simon. He joined one of my kind of lifestyle programs 2 years ago now. He's been to one of my retreats, and he is just a freaking light. He is such a good human being. He's now done, an amazing couple of races. He works so hard physically, mentally, emotionally, and he just proposed to his girlfriend. And I just feel like he proposed to his girlfriend, and he went from like this amazing transformation of 2 years ago, wanting to travel the world more, wanting to pursue more professional photography, wanting to get more into the fitness space, wanting to find someone that wants to do these things with him, to having everything he could ever want in this exact moment. And I got to see that transformation. And to me, that is like the ultimate reward. What can happen when you commit to yourself and you put the time in, and you have a friend and a coach that's there to actually hold your hand through it. That's just been so rewarding for me with just him and many other clients too. So yeah.
Yep. Okay, so you start the online, or you start the in-person.
Yeah.
And then eventually 3 years in, you go full-time, you're still just in-person, or are you doing some online?
So online actually was how I started. So I started online in 2019, started building up those clientele because I didn't have time to get to a gym before and after. So I was just doing virtual sessions. I was leading virtual classes, doing virtual one-on-one, creating programs for people, doing challenges, all online for about year and a half, I want to say.
Okay.
And then in the summer of 2021, after COVID kind of died down, that's when I did my first in-person personal training job. And I ended up halfway through the summer quitting my job to pursue this full time, because it was tough. Or I'm sorry, I'm getting my dates wrong. It was the year after 2022 that I did quit my job. So 2021, I was doing this craziness of just, it sounds so bad, but my full-time job didn't care that I was they actually loved that I was a personal trainer. And because I worked so hard and humbly was very good at the job, they didn't want to lose me. And so they knew if they told me that I couldn't take clients up till about like 10 a.m., I would quit. And so I stayed taking clients from like 5 to 10 a.m. I took a client at lunch, and then I would take clients, and I would work from the gym doing my full-time 9 to 5 job. And so, yeah, that was a while. And I did traveling on top of that. I remember I was out in San Diego for 6 months, doing both online clients, and I was helping build a fitness app at the time as well. A lot of things happening on top of my 9 to 5.
Yeah.
But it got to a point where clients were coming in and they were saying, hey, I would like to train at 11 a.m. I would like to train at 3, at 4. And I realized there was so much ability to help people that I had to keep turning people away because I had this 9 to 5. And so I had to make that decision, unfortunately, between like financially, I was in a really, really good role, giving all that up to pursue what in my heart was my purpose. And so, and retreats were a part of that too. So I knew I couldn't do it all. And when you're spread so thin, you're not showing up 100% as yourself in all areas. So I had to go all in. I said, if I don't go 100% on myself right now, I'm never going to. I had actually had someone say that to me at the end of COVID. I met some random man walking on a walk one time. And he was like, this is the time, like, we're going to look back at, we were just sitting there watching the sunset at the same time and when, came across each other. And so we just had a conversation. It was COVID. You didn't really talk to many people at this time. Still don't even know his name. Literally never saw him again. But he said something that stuck with me. And it was, we are going to see after COVID who took this time to really pursue what they wanted because the whole world shut down right now, and who didn't, and who stuck to their old versions of themselves and just came out of COVID and acted like nothing happened. And I dug in during COVID. I worked so hard so that in 2022, when I finally made the leap, I was able to do that. And so, I was doing in person, I was doing online, and then I was building my retreat business. Started by doing a couple day events, having people come out like day retreat-esque. And I, as you mentioned, I've been involved in retreats since I was 16, but I always knew that like they could be done better. And there's something calling me to this space. I remember I was asked when I was younger. It made zero sense. But I actually answered my mom, what do you want to be when you grow up with? I want to be a retreat leader. And I don't know where that came from, but I do, because obviously God put that on my heart for some reason, right?
That's wild.
I don't know where it came from, obviously.
Yeah.
But to see me step into that now and then to look back, like it wasn't something that I was thinking about for probably 10 years. I just was doing it. I was just a part of it. And then when I wasn't, that's when I realized, whoa, something's off. It was 3 years of feeling very disconnected from God, years of feeling alone, anxious. I'd gone through a bad breakup. Family was having some health issues. A lot of who am I, while also having such a passion for life. Mm-hmm. And that's when I realized I was made for more. And that's where the name comes from. I was sitting at the top of a mountain, questioning if I even wanted to be here anymore. And this was in the midst of, guys, literally all the stuff I'm telling you. Like, I was living the dream job. I was making all this money while also pursuing fitness and helping others become most fit. And I still was questioning my own purpose. And I sat on the top of this mountain, Zion, Utah, on a 10-day road trip by myself. And I just heard the words, "You're made for more." And I was like, that's it. And it was in that moment that I actually made the decision to quit my job. It took me a little longer to do that. Yeah. But to also pursue this retreat business. And when I later was like, what do I name it? Well, obviously, Made for More.
I love the name of it.
Thank you.
So what are some of the core components of the retreat?
Yeah. So the biggest thing about the retreat is we want to take you out of the world and help you get back to who you truly are. Because for me, when I was in that space of just go, do, I wasn't able to think. I wasn't able to actually like pinpoint what was off. Mm-hmm. I wasn't able to get to the root cause of everything. Mm-hmm. And so when I sat on the top of that mountain, my whole goal is to help elicit the feeling that I felt at the top of that mountain of, whoa, wonder, awe of like, I am so small in this world, but also this, like, I have such a unique purpose in this world too. Mm-hmm. So the core is to take you out of your go and put you in an environment, some form of nature environment where you can have that moment of just, aha, wow, I know who I am. Mm-hmm. And so we do that. We help you kind of get back to who you truly are, kind of before the world taught you to be. Mm-hmm. And then also help you discover that purpose, because there's a lot of, everyone talks about purpose all the time. Sure. But at the core, we all, I truly believe, are created individually and for a reason and for a purpose. And you might have multiple purposes in this life, mm-hmm. but I feel you feel most aligned and most yourself when you start to navigate that and you start to actually put time into who you truly are. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that's going back to childhood. A lot of it's going back to like, what are your passions? What are you interested in? And so a lot of our retreat involves a lot of childlike wonder. Mm-hmm. And so it's going to be, picking stuff up and putting them down in different fitness workouts, yoga, we do a lot of Pilates, stuff like that. And then a lot of just like field day-esque type stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's like the physical movement side, because mm-hmm. I think movement's medicine. Yep. Then there's the mind stuff. We do a lot of mindfulness activities. So whether it be, a lot of self-love discussions, journaling, meditation, breath work, a lot of stuff to let you kind of go inward and get into your heart and what your heart wants, not what your head's saying. Yeah. And then the other aspect is community. Community is so huge. And if you are surrounded by people that have the similar passions, not necessarily the same exact things you're interested in, mm-hmm. but have the same opportunity and the same drive for growth in their life. Yeah. Now you have people to hold you accountable when you leave this retreat to help you along your journey. So that's a huge one too. And then the last one's just doing something that puts you out of your comfort zone. A lot of people travel here. I'd say at this point, it's probably about 75% of people come alone and they leave with a whole new community / family is what they call it. Yeah. Love. Yeah. Yeah. Of people that just support them. Mm-hmm. And I think that is truly the most special part about Made for More is it's not just a retreat. Mm-hmm. And that was the reason I created this whole company, because I felt like I've been on so many life-changing experiences, right? And I can pinpoint exact moments that have changed my life on different retreats. But then there's this high of retreat and this low of returning back home.
Totally.
The biggest thing I want to do, and the whole goal of Made for More, is to not allow returning home to be the same, and to keep that feeling of that retreat going all year round. And so we do Monday calls. Everyone comes on Mondays, you know, gets together virtually, and we still get together. Like, we're in February, we have 20 people signed up for their first half marathon or marathon.
Heck
just because they went for the first run at a retreat, and now they want to just try something new. Some of them are doing a 5K. It doesn't matter to me, but we're getting together here for the Austin Marathon. And it's like little things like that, like community. We talked about community earlier, but people don't have that around the world.
Well, and I think what you said too, of like people who are, what I heard when you're, you know, people who are going the direction that you're going or something like that. What that makes me think of, because obviously with each, if you were to look at each individual that's coming to your retreats and so on, they probably work in a very, very vast, like a broad range of professions, right?
Absolutely.
And so they're, and familial statuses and so on. Like there's probably a lot of diversity within that. But then it's this appetite for life is what I kind of think, you know what I mean? Like you want to be surrounded by people who are, have an appetite for life and who can hold space for the gratitude for the things that they have or whatever, but also have the hunger for more, and both can coexist and should, you know? And so like those ideas, unfortunately, are, maybe not everyone feels that way at this moment, right? And so then it's like it's cool because of being in Austin, being in this place, right? I've gotten to attend many retreats in the past 2.5 years that are led by others. So I've had a lot of exposure to these settings and experienced different people's versions of them. And typically there's some type of, you know, there's some staples that are like, you know, there's uniqueness to them, but they're kind of, we got to get you in your own head, then we got to get you in your body. And, you know, and like, it's great. And what I see consistently, the theme with it is like the ones that, like the thing that matters the most, even in the ones that maybe aren't necessarily articulating that the goal is that you leave with the community. That's the most impactful part. Is yes, it's beautiful to have this experience for sure, but then those relationships that they carry away from there, I feel from what I've observed and then just in my own experience are the most impactful parts of it.
Absolutely. And our biggest thing, and the thing that honestly drives you the most, coming from an experience of not wanting to be alive at one point in my life, I truly believe there's a difference between living and being alive. And truly, like, that is why our whole motto is live on purpose. Because yes, you can go through life living one day at a time, doing the same old mundane routine, or you can truly be alive. And so one of the things I say in one of the breath works I always lead is there's a life we're born into. I believe we have 2 lives. The life we're born into, and the second is when we decide to live truly. And so, that's just something that I truly think is in that space of retreats, which I really love about retreats. But something that I think uniquely, Made for More, which I really love, it attracts all ages. It attracts all paths. And it shows you that you're exactly where you're supposed to be, and it's okay where you've been, and it doesn't have to define your future at the same time. So,
Okay, I love that. I'm curious in the iterations of it, which it's cool because I mean, we're not going to have time to get into all the details, but I'm sure the way it started to the way it is now looks very different, and the where you want to take it probably looks different too, you know? And what have been some of the hard things about running retreats for you?
Yeah. So the initial investment, just going back to the debt thing that I meant to touch on that. I did it completely wrong. I literally, instead of getting like a business loan out, because you have these large deposits that you do have to put down on different venues and things like that. Instead of getting a business loan and or selling a retreat before, which I don't think that's a smart idea necessarily either. But selling a retreat before you have like the location booked. you're kind of playing with your own money that you have. And so I invested a lot of my own money, upwards of like $40,000 into my first retreat. And unfortunately, I'm making mistakes and things like that. I forgot, which is such a silly mistake, but I didn't factor in the deposit on the back end into the ticket price, because it was something I paid originally $17,000. I just put down out of my own money. And because I did it that way, I just somehow messed that up with the ticket price. And so on the back end, I ended up going like $30,000 into debt on my first retreat. And so that was the very first time where and a lot of people listening now are probably like, what? No way.
Well, but I think it's clearly you want it if you showed back up and did it again.
Yeah.
Like that to me is indicative of like, this is something you really care about.
Yeah.
Because most people would make an error like that, which that is a part of success.
Yes.
You are going to mess up along the way financially, like it's going to, anyway. And yet you showed back up.
Yeah.
Like that's a pretty good indicator that anyway, that's cool. I'm sorry because I'm sure that
okay.
was like awful to experience.
Horrible.
Yeah.
That weight, that's why I was saying like, I get the weight on your chest.
Okay. So you went into debt.
Yeah.
Over it.
And immediately you're faced with that back up against the wall. Did I just mess up? Do I do this again? Am I not supposed to be? You're grappling with everything you thought is your purpose. And I had moments of really dark days of just, I don't think I should do this again. Maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this. While also having the same back up against the wall of knowing what I could do differently and knowing that it was just a silly mistake. And so you have to grapple with a silly mistake that's going to take some time to get out of, and also pushing forward, because you can't wallow in it. You can't stay in it. And so I think that's been the hardest part of just entrepreneurship in general. Just putting a lot of upfront cost into it, and also dabbling with that money mindset and having to battle through, you're investing in your future. You're investing in what you want the outcome to be, and to also accept the feedback, because feedback of my first retreat was so incredible. Like the amount of people that said their lives were changed. They went, and this wasn't a religious retreat, went back to church. Like things just happened for people. People went into recovery. And I was grappling with if I should do it again, all because the world and the financial burden was on my chest.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is so hard sometimes is just the challenge of it not working out 100% how you thought it was going to right off the bat. And just perseverance and that consistency in that, and not giving up. And we've had, I think, 8 or 9 since then. So it's like crazy.
You've learned some things.
Oh yeah.
And we're not going into debt over these current ones, hopefully.
No.
Okay, good. Well, I'm just genuinely, I don't even know if I should say that on air, but I'm like hopeful for that. For you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's definitely, that's such a cool iteration of coaching, community building, et cetera, to be able to create this whole entire experience. Like that is I commend you for it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's such a labor of love, because getting that logistically taken care of and then dumping the energy into the actual event itself once it arrives, that is your show, and you have had better perform,
Yes.
And so
that was tough. And I remember I sat with it afterwards, and every single time I doubted the future and doubted continuing, it was the question of, was it worth it, that kept coming up? And the answer was always yes. It was worth it. And do you love what you're doing? Yes. Well, then who cares? Keep going. Keep doing it till it works out, till you're successful. And so, yeah.
Okay. For 2025, do you already have dates? Do you already have locations?
Yes.
Okay, tell them. We talked about it enough. You got to tell them.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So exclusive, a little, there's one that's launched. Hawaii is April 5th to the 12th. That's Kauai. So if you want to come to that, that one's going to be a wellness retreat. So it's going to be focused specifically on everything we talked about, like the underlying live on purpose theme and getting back to who you truly are. But it's going to be a lot of hiking, surfing, optional. Obviously, if you don't surf, that's okay. You just try it out if you want to. Snorkeling. We have a hula show. We have all that fun stuff of Hawaii, the local meals, the local mana. But then we also have a lot of really beautiful practices that are going to be led. Heather Kirby, she is someone that's come to 5 of our retreats. She is now yoga teacher certified. So she's going to be leading a couple yoga sessions for us. I'm going to be leading some breath work, mindset workshops. Matt's going to be leading some runs for our little runners out there, and a lot of good communities. Kirby is Heather's boyfriend. He's going to be doing a lot of snorkeling tours. He's a marine biologist, loves it. So really good group this year, I think, community wise. And then off the record, not really off the record because we're on a podcast. We're looking into, I haven't launched the next one yet, but we're looking into June potentially being a Colorado trip. Just fun. A quick weekender. So really just a Thursday through Sunday fitness retreat. So not a wellness retreat, fitness retreat. Difference between the two, a lot more focus on, probably more like intense workouts. So you're looking at kind of like more runs, more, CrossFit workouts, things like that, rather than your more wellnessy, yoga-y. There'll be some yoga, breath work, all that too. Cold plunging, sauna, that type of stuff. And then I definitely want to do a faith retreat for men and women this year, which is a little bit of a different retreat I want to try out. I come from that background, so I would love to do a Christian retreat for men and then for women towards the end of the year. And then we'll likely do our Zion retreat again, which is just our signature every year, probably in September.
Okay.
So, little breakout.
No, I love it. And in the meantime, you already have the Run Across America, right?
Yes.
That will you also be there for that?
I plan on it.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I think he can take one media and one crew. So I'll kind of step into that crew chief role.
Yeah. And Drew will be the media?
Yes.
Inevitably.
Well, or Drew will be, or I think he's talking to maybe 1 or 2 other people too about it. Cause I think Drew might be busy if I'm not incorrect. So someone else might do media this time around, but yeah, I think I'm going to be crew, but I had some practice with the Run Across Texas. I was crew chief like 2 days for 2 shifts.
Yeah. You observed it the whole time too.
Yeah.
Like you got intimate experience with what it functions like.
Yeah. And I'm sure Matt's gotten a ton of a lot of testing done since the Run Across Texas. He's got a genetics test done. He's doing a metabolic test. He's going to have a lot more data to actually sit with that. I think over the next couple of months, we'll be able to formulate a really good nutrition plan to actually fuel him even better than we did with the Run Across Texas.
That's
so
great.
Living with him every day, I think we'll get that nailed down.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's all my questions.
Okay.
I do have one final that we always finish with.
Love.
3 things that you're grateful for.
Love.
Yeah.
So good. So good. I'm grateful for life. I'm grateful just for the ability to be alive. I think every single day that we wake up is a gift. And so we should treat it that way. I have just a quick little fun thing off that. My best friend Gianna had a friend that every single day she wakes up in the morning and she goes, "Woo, yay, we're awake, we're alive." And she starts her day that way every day.
That's funny.
And I just want to bring that energy into every single day.
Totally.
So I'm grateful to be alive.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for beautiful friends and family that support me. And I'm really, really grateful for God. I'm so grateful for him. I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be doing anything without Jesus' love. Time and time again, he's saved me from so many things in my life and brought me to a better purpose, better vision for his glory. So yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Those were just riffed. You could tell she has experience with gratitude because that was so easy. I love it. Okay, I do mine as well. My 3 gratitudes, I'm actually going to steal your second one basically because it was very present on my mind. I already mentioned at one time that the support system that I do have and feeling like whenever things are challenging in one way or another, that I think there were seasons of my life, I know in the past, where I was so self-reliant, not God-reliant, not able to allow my support system in on what was actually going on, a number of different things, to where that felt very isolating, very, and the fear associated with anything would be so much higher because I was trying to carry it alone and deal with it alone, So to just be in anything that's hard and be like, wow, I feel so supported is so cool. So I'm very grateful for my support system and just being able to experience that more today. And then I can't copy because then I'm like, well, my faith, but I can't copy yours. Okay. I'm also grateful
You
that
can.
it's sunny out, and which is like totally messing this up, but that's fine. But it's been great weather for like a week, so I know that's such an easy grab, but I love when we can wear shorts in December. I'm here for it. So
I wore the wrong clothing because we had a rainy day, and I was like, I guess it's going to be, but it's so nice out today.
I thought it was supposed to be getting colder today. In your defense, I thought it was supposed to be. And then I looked and I was like, not yet. Sounds great. And then my third gratitude, I guess it's just going to be, I'm excited to go home for Christmas for a little bit more time. The past couple of years, it's been a very brief in and out. And not that this one's like an extended stay, but it's certainly longer than it was the past couple of years. So I'm looking forward to that. I am grateful for the opportunity to do that.
Love that.
Okay, we will put in the notes ways in which, of course, her Instagram, and then ways that they can connect with you, whether they want to check out the retreats or whether they want to check out the coaching or anything like that. That'll be in the description below, as will my coaching and all the stuff I'm up to. I actually launched one program on Train Heroic, and another one is coming out, which is cool because everything else has been coupled with my coaching so far.
Okay.
So that's nice because all the other programming that I have on the internet is you must be a part of at least the community, whatever, whereas the Train Heroic stuff now is just separate. So anyway, that's there if it's of interest. And other than that, we just hope that you choose to have a beautiful day.